So we're going to have a panel this morning on domain name brokerage. I think, Braden, it would be appropriate for you to start us off. Want to give a little intro real quick, and then we'll have a little conversation. But how about, actually, Michael, you start with an intro. We'll do an intro all the way down, and then, Braden, you can kick off a conversation. Sound good?
Sounds good. Michael Law, I'm with Grit Brokerage. We've been a domain broker for 7 years. My partner Brian and I, and Maureen Sullivan, broker high-end domain names, and I buy and sell domains on the side once in a while. And the panel, I thought we were calling it buying and selling premium domains as well as brokering. So, yeah, great to be here, and such a nice welcome from London. First time here. It's been a pleasure.
I'm Braden Pollock. Excuse the voice. I lost it a couple of days ago. I'm still looking for it. I'm a domain name investor. I've been in the space for about 18 years. I focus mostly on oneword.coms. I've got probably 2,500 names, maybe 3,000 names. About 300 of those are one-word comms. I don't broker, so I can't really contribute much to that.
But you negotiate a little and guide acquisition.
I definitely negotiate a lot. That's true. But I don't outbound my names.
You don't have to outbound. You negotiate. You know what's happening in the market. That's why you're here.
So that's who I am.
Adam Wagner. I represent parkingcrew.com, which is the part of Centralny Group. We've been a significant player when it comes to premium names, both premium and premium because of traffic volumes. I'm in the business for recent 18 years. Years ago, I've been having my own brokerage, Domain Broker PL in Poland, doing sort of 30% of total volume of premium domain name sales in Poland back at the time. I've been also a broker representing buyers in the market of Dubai for recent 8 years. But primarily from the Parking Crew perspective, we support domain name investors, helping them to monetize traffic and commission-free process incoming offers through our in-house for sale form.
Did I hear commission-free?
Commission-free.
Explain that on incoming?
Just Parking Crew is a parking. Our business is monetization. We don't process sales, but we facilitate the process of submitting an offer, which goes directly to domain name owner, and then domain name owner can continue however he likes and finalize, for example, through escrow.com, which is the cheapest option, allows direct negotiation, and this is what Parking Crew has been proud of since the beginning.
Good morning. I am Mark Ghoriafi, the founder of MrPremium.com. We are a domains brokerage and acquisition. And prior to that, for the majority of my career, actually, prior to brokerage, I've been on the registry side of the business, originally joining the industry with the .club domains registry, moving and advancing my career with .global domains, then entering into affiliates, overseeing 27 extensions, selling premium domains, and most recently doing strategic partnerships with influencers and big brands with the Radix registry, specifically with .store and .online. So a lot of my career has been on the GTLD side, and I've had some significant success and record-breaking success with the IO extension as well. But yeah, we're an outbound domain names brokerage with MrPremium.com.
I'm Ryan Ewen. I'm the co-founder of EW3N and the .UK group. We're kind of, I guess, domain investors I built my career in financial services, and the biggest growth we had was when we invested in premium domain names. So I kind of understand the pain points that people go through when they're investing large amounts of money and the benefits that can be had.
Thank you all so much. Braden, you don't even have a mic. All right.
I'm sharing it with Mike. Sharing the mic with Mike.
So collaborative. So, shall we talk about the market in general, changes in 2023?
You're the moderator.
Okay, well, do we want to hear about changes in 2023 or what to expect in 2024 first?
Changes in 2023.
The mustache has spoken.
My high-end sales have slowed down dramatically this year. Inquiries are still there, but nobody seems to be getting to the numbers. I mean, I do get high offers. I'll get a $500,000 offer on a name I want $2.5 million for. So there are substantial offers coming in, but just not enough to get over the line. Whereas smaller names are still selling at the same rate. But I was just talking to Mike about this just a few minutes ago, and he said that he's actually had more sales this year. So I don't know why it's different for me, although most people I've talked to have had a slowdown in high-end sales. So my question to you is, the higher velocity you've had this year, is it high-end premium sales or mid-range sales?
Yeah, it's definitely been a mix. Our brokerage, we focus on high-end.com, but we also take on a lot of one-word .ai, .io, .net, .org, and some .xyz. But I'd say about 50% of those sales have been other TLDs than .com, and there are quite a few mid-range. We've had several high-end sales as well. So it's a good mix, and compared to last year, as I told Braden, we've already surpassed, well, the names that I've brokered already surpassed all of the names that we brokered last year as far as total sales and number of domains sold.
What accounts for the difference?
What do you mean?
Well, do you think it's market conditions, or are you doing something different with your outbound? Do you have more inventory?
We have about the same amount of inventory. It fluctuates. We're doing outbound aggressively on pretty much every name we take under brokerage, and I think that there's a lot of interest in two-word and .coms and one-word GTLDs and CCTLDs that are generic in nature now. And I think a lot of it accounts from just being in the market in the mid-range as well as high range. There's a lot of opportunities. We're working on a lot of acquisitions as well. So acquisitions have been going very well also.
Would anyone further down the line like to speak on the same subject? Are you seeing ups, downs?
Sure. Well, yeah, I think I have been seeing consistency with IO sales over the last few years. I mean, back in late 2020, I helped shift the needle forward into the year of 2021 with a record-breaking IO sale. And then I see that it has slowed down over the years and over the last 3 years, but I'm still seeing consistent sales with IO. When it comes to similar to what Braden...
What was that record-breaking sale?
That was
I mean, you're just teasing us. So.
No. That, back in late 2020, that was Bank, B-A-N-K, Bank.io, which at that time was the highest sale for the IO extension, which was 80,000. And then, of course, we moved on into 2021, and we saw Metaverse.io sell at 125, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's just nice to be part of advancement and part of change. And I think in regards to what you said about the .com, I've only really been focusing heavily on the one-word .coms the last 18 months or so. And in May of last year, I did on a personal level, I did my first 7-figure oneword.com sale, half payment then, half payment this year in May, which was a success under NDA, but it was to a big drinks company. So I've seen a lot of success moving forward with the IOs, the AIs, and as Michael said, the one-word GTLDs have definitely been selling. And something that I have seen continuously happen, even with obscure extensions, such as, I know that a lot of the time some people will use like .dog as more of a jokey, random extension to make a point. And I actually am the top dog of .dog with my sale this year of top.dog earlier in January. And so there is a market out there, and I've been traditionally selling to end users with premium renewal price domains. And I know within the room here, a lot of people frown upon the premium renewal names because ultimately it's harder for the investor community to sell, and it's not where things necessarily need to be for the investor community. But from an end user point of view, it has been very, very successful. And one thing that I would always say to the GTLD registries is publicize the sales. DN Journal is welcomes always. And when we see as a community success happening with these GTLDs, I think that it gives us more strength behind the scenes these are working. So I do have a slightly different perspective. I do focus on .coms, but I'm a believer, adapter, and adopter to the GTLD space, which we've been seeing a lot of sales for this year as well.
Thank you, Mark. Ryan, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing in the premium domain market changes in 2023.
Okay, yeah, well, I think, so in the UK space, it's not market conditions. We're at we can't go any lower. And that's not because of the market, that's because of confusion since 2019. So we own 4 one-letter.co.uk's and some of the kind of rarest UK assets you can get. I think with the launch of the marketplace, the UK market will lift, but we're looking at 6 to 9 months. In terms of comms, the market is flat. Numerics are down 50%. I mean, this year I've sold about 8,000 domains, so I've got kind of, I sell portfolios and kind of oneword.coms, 2 letters. It's a good time to be buying. And on the high end, the 2letter.coms and stuff, that value has substantially decreased over the last 18 months, I'd say. You know, the big holders in China, because I've got quite a lot of contacts in China, 3letter.coms, 2let.coms were they were just super bullish. You couldn't buy one for 5 million. Now that top end of the market has been affected. They're still great value domains, but in my opinion, the market's flat, but this is the time to buy with the view of 2024, which I think is looking promising. Because I guess the biggest thing is that with all the tech layoffs, you know, Facebook, Microsoft, they're the next generation of people who understand the value of a domain name. So once they come back into the market, they're the people that are going to really see value in these kind of ultra rare assets. So I think 2024, mid-2024 looks promising.
I would like to add 2 cents when it comes to sales, but from the perspective of traffic, because as a domain investor myself, and probably like many others, I would like to sell more premiums. But at the same time, from the traffic portfolio perspective, this sort of like a feeling of dissatisfaction from the level of sales is not the case at all by any means. When it comes to traffic portfolios, there is no, I would say, struggling for finding a buyer, because for many years there is more demand than supply. Obviously, getting traffic portfolio is not easy. It's actually very difficult, but at the same time, domain investors who have traffic portfolios, they can choose among offers. This is that simple, that if you have traffic which lasts, domain owner just analyzes monthly revenues, and the deal is as simple as agreeing on the multiple, which has been in the recent years somewhere between 24 up to 36x, meaning monthly revenues. And this type of portfolios are all the time in demand. If someone of you has this type of portfolio, let me know. I can definitely connect you with the buyer very, very quickly. So it's, I would say, different picture than when it comes to premium sales, because everyone has premium names and everyone would like to sell more. With premium, with the traffic portfolios, this is rather sort of opposite when it comes to demand and supply.
And when you say 24 to 36x, is that consistent over the years? Has that changed? Do you anticipate that changing in the future?
When it comes to traffic, I just see that the multiples are going higher. Maybe even CentralNIC sort of increased the demand, I would say, because we also buy portfolios. And then maybe this is also this sort of an effect that market seeing that type of acquisitions, which are high millions acquisitions, maybe goes into that direction. But, well, not having a regular revenue stream from premium sales, having traffic portfolios which generate that regular monthly revenue stream, this is that kind of beautiful asset for domainers that this is just in demand, and the multiples are increasing. Number of portfolios available for acquisition is not increasing, but buyers definitely are.
It's the beautiful thing about the domain market. We just need to talk with each other and learn what's up, what's down, what's changing. So Braden, back to you. Do you see consistency with some of the other TLDs that have been mentioned today, or primarily is your portfolio mostly .coms and what you're seeing there?
Well, my portfolio is probably 85 or 90% .com, but I picked up a few hundred .vcs during a promo a few years ago. Those sell, not a lot, but it's been profitable. I buy nets and orgs, premium one-word nets and orgs, and they sell for me. It's a fraction. It's 5 to 10% of the .com. I think a good .net or .org usually sells for me about $35,000.
Good, you mean one word?
One word, yeah. Not I wouldn't say a super premium, so that would be maybe a $350,000 .com. But if it's a $1 million .com or $2 million, then the .net and .org would be closer to $100,000. And in some cases, the .io can go that high as well. Despite your record breaker, I think that was the first high value, but they've gone up since then.
Yeah, I've done about $2.5 million of .io sales, and I'm seeing consistency with the IOs. Again, 2020, 2021, very, very peak, I would say, and then it has slowed down, but not slowed down to a stopping point. It's still consistent. And I think that you've just got to always find what works for you. Like you mentioned the .vcs. I love the .vcs, but we haven't seen that really take off yet. But I'm seeing obviously a lot of your little sales here and there with the VCs in reference to pop-up. And I think that there is a market for alternatives out there. But as you said, it's a fraction of the price of what we're seeing. But when it comes to IO, and of course we're now seeing the trend with the .ai's, and I'm seeing a very similar path. I think I would say I got in ahead of the curve with the IOs just about a year before it really took off. And I was able to kind of get in slightly under the radar, not necessarily owning the domains. At that time, I was working with Affiliates, who were the back-end operator to the IO extension. So I had, again, a little bit of a unique perspective with the IOs because I was on the back end of the system selling premium names that were there. That were part of the system that they'd never actually released before. So there was some brand new IO names that were never in history released that I was helping sell. And my goodness, at that point, we were selling them at like 2, 3, 4 grand a pop. And some of those names now have sold. In fact, Mountain.io was my quickest sale in history. I am able to talk about this. It has been publicly mentioned. But I sold it at a lower end price, and a gentleman called Bar, you obviously know Bar, Bartek, he ended up through GoDaddy selling it for $90,000 2 years later. So he got a wonderful return on his investment there. So going from 4 figures to high 5 figures in 2 years is really where we've seen the market with the IOs. And you just got to always find what works for you. I found a little bit of a unique selling point within the industry. I mean, have you ever seen anyone in our industry skydive whilst promoting and selling domain names? Scuba dive with shipwrecks, parasail. Have you ever seen anyone horse ride? Well, you have now. July the 4th this year, last month, I jumped out of a plane 10,000 feet in the air. Another day, another dime, another dollar, another day here in domaining paradise, promoting and selling domains. And as a direct result of that video, we ended up selling dn.io for $27,500, which for the 2-letter .ios was a record breaker in itself as well. So you just got to find what works for you. And I know that, Michael, you do outbounding with Grit Brokerage. I do outbounding with MrPremium.com. Some people, like Braden, who has big keyword, one-word.coms, you allow, if I'm not mistaken in saying this, you allow offers to come to you and then negotiate when those offers are there, but you aren't personally actively doing the outbounding yourself. And
That's because I'm lazy.
that's because you're lazy, but you've got some pretty damn good keyword.coms that you get a lot of inbound for. Well, you get some inbound for from what I'm aware of. And I think if you've got the passion, the patience, the persistence, and you put in your full time, not everybody has the time. To domaining to some people is a part-time gig. And with me, it's my blood, my sweat, my tears. It's everything I do all day and all night. And if you've got that time and if you've dedicated that passion to it, you will have some success. And I've been very blessed over the last 9 years now to sell multiple millions of dollars of domains, break some records, and meet some great people along the way.
Well, I would like to clarify, Braden, you're brilliant. I think each domain investor has a different strategy. And,
Absolutely.
And I think the matching of your portfolio with your strategy of waiting for inbounds is, it works very well for you. And that's the great thing about having a panel and a group of people here with different portfolios and different strategic needs. But I know you're so humble, but don't sell yourself short.
Well, not all my names. I do have some with brokers. The 2 of the brokers on stage have some of my names. Mike and Mark both are working on some of my names. Not Ryan, because he speaks funny and sells co-UKs.
British.
So I mean, I don't know how many I have with brokers. A small percentage, maybe 30 or 40 names out of a few thousand. So it's a pretty small number. And just to help get some velocity. And there have been a few sales, but not a lot. I think at the high end, a company really needs to have the budget, and they're looking for it. You also typically get more money that way.
And you know what else brings in more money is more of a buyer understanding of what a premium domain can do for an end user. And so I'd like to quickly get a survey of, do you think buyer education, which in my opinion is one of the biggest things that brokers bring to the table, is the time they invest in educating all the potential buyers so that we wind up with one. Do each of you think that there's been any type of shift or growth in buyer education, in them understanding what a domain can do for them, or the amount of time it takes to explain that? Are we seeing changes there? We'll go down the line. Ryan, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so on the higher end domains, education is really, really key. But the key thing is not to over-educate, it's to just simplify to help people understand the value of the asset. You know, people talk about valuing stuff. What they're really talking is about evaluating a domain. So you need to zoom out and look at the whole picture. And in doing your research, you'll identify the kind of the perfect home for that, or the perfect buyer for that domain name, where you can extract the most value.
I like that, and I think that's true. Simplification is actually the best education, but getting to the root of which questions they don't understand can be interesting. Yeah. I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I think education is, with the .com world, I think a lot of people know .com is a website address. It's as simple, even if you don't necessarily know the industry, you know what a .com is, you know what a .com represents and what it can do for you. When it came to IOs, .ios and GTLDs, which not everybody in the world yet still understands, that's why we're here, that's why we're putting in that effort to try and create the awareness. I think that's what it's about. It's creating awareness, letting people understand that there are now new alternatives out there, letting people understand the benefits, not telling somebody how they should use it, but telling them how it could be used and how it has benefited others. Giving examples, and for example, WE.global, which is now a woman's woman entrepreneur website, founded by a lovely lady called Tanya. She offered $200 for that, and I ended up selling for $22,000 of that particular one, and that was because she didn't understand the value behind what a domain name could do for her, but she wanted that name very badly. She saw the vision, so she already had the vision, but she didn't understand the value behind it. So a respectful education and showing sales comparables and showing what other existing businesses have done with an alternative extension, and obviously I'm talking here about the alternative extensions at the moment, that's where things really need to go. We're only just really scratching the surface 10 years into the GTLD industry. I still feel that we're still in a very growth up stage, and the more influencers that use it. So there's now Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street. Obviously, I'm sure most of you have seen the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Wolf of Wall Street. He plays the character based on the true story of Jordan Belfort. Jordan Belfort had jordanbelfort.com. But what was interesting about that, and he still has that, but he was losing traffic to Jordan Belfort with a D, when in fact his last name is with a T. And when I was working with Radix at the time, he approached us about jb.online. Long story cut short, he ends up now using jb.online as his primary URL, even though he has his exact match.com. So we have seen people do it that way as well. We have seen what they may consider an upgrade to a .com because it's shorter than their existing one. So just a respectful education, not telling someone how they should use it, but showing someone how it could be beneficial and showing what has been beneficial.
I would draw maybe a slightly different perspective because supporting, for example, the buy side in acquisition for brands, in my view, domainers too often overestimate let's say, importance of a domain name to this extent that, let's say, once you talk to a marketing manager, directors, or board of a corporation, we treat domain names as ours. It's just a tool and one of the things they need to think about when it comes to their PR and marketing strategy. So my advice to every domainer would be to think about domains in the context of making this acquisition process as easy and straightforward as possible for the buyer. Because yes, there are different types maybe of acquisitions. Sometimes there's the company who just wants to acquire a corresponding name of a product or a service, or for example, I've been acquiring domain names for Discovery Group. So they wanted to have the name of their series under their roof, but at the same time, it wasn't a must for them. So I would say, making this transaction accessible and I would say easy, sufficiently easy, helps to meet the intentions of the buyer and the seller. So driving up and trying to get as high deals as possible, domainers may often lose the transaction. And this is not good, because probably it's better to find an optimal sort of agreement, but to have a deal instead of hoping for really skyrocketing values and not having the deal. This is quite problematic, I would say, for domainers.
Excellent point.
I've got a similar story. I've got actually a number of stories like that. One of which was Google reached out to me for carpool.com some years ago. It was the head of Waze, and she offered $250,000, and I said mid-seven figures, thinking, well, this is Google, right? Well, apparently they hadn't chosen that name for a brand. Although I think they were using waze.com/carpool. But within that department, that was probably their max budget. And you go beyond 250, then they have to get approval from, you know, the higher up, and then it goes on and on. The bigger the purchase, the higher level of approval they need. And so that deal didn't happen because I asked for much more. Whether or not it was the right move, I don't know, because I still have that name. Maybe I should have sold it for $250 years ago and then parlayed that money into other names. But what was the question again? I'm still a little cloudy. Education.
Yeah, if the buyer education is, I
So-
mean, it sounds like they understood that
Certainly she did.
carpool was worth more and they needed to adjust their expectations.
You know, I won't educate if somebody's offering me $5,000 for a $500,000 name, because I just don't think they'll ever get there. You know, I might have a conversation, a short conversation, but I don't go too in depth. But if I'm getting close, if they're at 500 and I want 650 or something, and I have to get them over the line, then I'll talk about the tax implications, for example, because some people think they just write it off as a marketing expense, and I explain to them that it can be an asset and they can keep it on their books. So it'll increase the value of their company. So the money's not just gone. Or they can write it off and take the deduction. Just depends on what their own tax strategy is. I talk to them about payment plans, that they can finance it. I might carry the paper, or they can finance it elsewhere. A lot of companies don't realize they can do that. Sometimes I'll offer a buyback guarantee. Within 2 years, I'll buy it back for 40% or 50%, which they never do, right? Because in the first couple of years, they don't want to take that much of a hit, but it makes them feel a little bit better that they can recoup some of their money. Like I said, it's never happened, but it seems like they always appreciate that option. So those are the kinds of educating. That's the kind of educating that I do, which I think is helpful. It's helped get over the line sometimes.
Yeah, touching on what both Adam and Braden have said, that there's a lot of companies that when we're outbounding, that we might be putting the perfect name in front of them, but it doesn't mean they're going to jump out of their seat and buy it for the price that the investor wants, and a lot of it comes down to your planting seeds, and you need to be patient and water them, and there is definitely education that needs to be done at later stages, but until you get to that stage, there's just a lot of persistence that needs to happen as well. When you're using a broker compared to trying to outbound your own name, if you're outbounding your own domain and they know you're the owner of it and you're consistently following up, it kind of almost reeks of, I guess, you really want to sell the name, you're getting desperate, but if it's a broker's job to stay consistent as well, and so when you have a broker working your name and being consistent and following up, there's just what we do, and that helps get deals done, and it helps keep the name in front of them. Maybe at the perfect time, you'll follow up and they realize they need the domain. So planting seeds is a big part of our job, and being patient and helping the investor understand as well that you need to be patient with these deals, and that's why we ask for a few months at least to work the domains.
Thank you. I think this was accidentally a wonderful summary of really some key takeaways of sales approaches in general. So from Ryan, I heard keep it simple, kind of the one thing, keep them focused on the main message. Mark, I heard we have buyers increasingly approaching already educated with decisions about both knowing what problems there are and what direction they want to take.
And to rhyme as much as possible.
Oh. And from Adam, I heard, now I'm like, oh no, I worked so hard to memorize this. Adam, reduce the steps, make it easier, less objections to overcome. Braden, financial flexibility, some creativity and openness that both opens their mind to options, but also that creates a sense of collaboration. And from Michael, the stability, keeping it front of mind, you plant the seed, and then really I think they're getting educated in the world with the fabulous journalism we have in this industry, but also in general. You just keep it front of mind and the problem of their domain will come to the surface. So this was really a wonderful panel. Each of you are so insightful. Let's open it up to some Q&A, maybe about 2-3 minutes of Q&A. Who's gonna go first?
Thank you. I have a question for Braden. What percentage of your deals would have some kind of non-cash element for seller financing or some kind of more creative element?
Yeah, I actually offer it all the time. Usually they end up paying cash, other than payment plans. I mean, there's a lot of payment plans. There's always payment plans and leasing. But I often look at shares. I'll take shares if I like the company. I'm also an angel investor, so I know how to read decks and ask the right questions. And if I don't like the company, then I won't do it. But if I do like the company, I had one recently that they wanted Lobby.com. It was a gaming company. Really smart kid, third-time founder. He'd raised $25 million before he even launched the company, just based on an idea. And it was top-tier VCs that were supporting him. So I wanted shares, and they didn't want to give me very much. The VCs would only approve a little bit. And so we actually couldn't get the deal done. We were close. It was unfortunate, because I really wanted a piece of that company. But I've done, I'm trying to think.
Wait, I want to know, do you think they'll come back?
No, they chose a different brand. Yeah, but I've gotten equity in a couple of companies. One's a PE firm, so that'll be a while before it pays off, but I'll probably double my money from that. And then another one was a payment plan with 10% equity in the company, and they actually folded. They paid me about 20% and then folded. So I got $57,000 free money, which is not too terrible.
I wanted to ask a bit more of an open-ended question, which might be a bit provocative given the kind of audience we have, and I suspect I know what your answer might be. I guess it's sort of over the course of the development of the internet, we've moved from an environment where people access content by typing addresses into a browser bar or picking links out of a series of search engine results, into an environment where people get their content in a number of different ways. So a lot of companies will put content out through a mobile app, and that can be completely divorced from even having a domain name or needing to use it. Obviously, there are lots of other platforms as well where kind of similar comments hold. with all that in mind, I can envisage potentially a future to the internet where the end user never sees an address in a browser address window. Would you guys say that you're confident that there is a long-term future in the domain name industry? And if not, have you got any thoughts on what might replace it?
So this has been brought up many times over the years. Google was going to kill domain names. Apps were going to kill domain names. Voice was going to kill domain names. And domain names have only gone up in value. So access to the internet would have to dramatically change for domains to go away. First off, email would have to cease to exist. How are we going to replace email? Right? Because you need a domain name for email. Offline advertising. I mean, we're not going to scan a QR code while we're driving down the highway, right? So, billboards, radio, television, those all still very much exist. Print advertising. So, all of those things would have to change, meaning access to the internet as a whole would have to totally change for domain names to go away. So, while I am biased because I'm a domain investor, I just don't see a world where domains don't exist. Now, someday, perhaps, but I don't see any technology in the near or distant future that's going to affect domain names.
I would add to that the large brands, like, for example, media companies, TV channels, they acquire domains because they want to secure an asset. They consider it as a trademark. Trademark doesn't drive up traffic to your website, but at the same time, TV channel has a lot of traffic. They don't need a domain name to have extra traffic, but they do acquire name because they want to secure a product name, a service. They want to support their brand. So as you know, I am biased by traffic, but it's not, I don't think that domain names are primarily responsible for driving up traffic. I would consider nowadays domains as a brand and an asset, IP asset, more closer to the trademark, not necessarily a driver of traffic.
I think there's been a resurgence in the importance of the URL in advertising over the last probably 12 to 18 months. I've, watching TV commercials, I'm seeing a lot more URLs in commercials or on advertising, on billboards. I think a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years ago, there was a big focus on hashtags and QR codes and other forms of, getting your brand out there. But I definitely, and I'm not sure if everybody agrees, but I've seen a lot more URLs put in front of customers and viewers on advertising.
I should just say I agree with you. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate that it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But I'm a big advocate for domain names because I think it's the one way you can be absolutely sure of where you're going.
So I think that the foundations of the internet are going to substantially change. That's correct. Blockchain as a technology is amazing, and that's going to have a huge impact. Social media, you're not going to build your business on someone else's platform. Just look at the recent thing with X.com and the X Twitter handle. Ultimately, if you run a business, you want to own that. So I think everything's going to change, but ultimately, I'm super bullish on domain names. I can't see anything changing in the next 10 to 20 years that is going to replace a URL. That's kind of my take.
Thank you so much. What a good question. Got us all, got our blood flowing. And if you have further questions, please come and speak to our fabulous panelists at any time throughout the day today. So thank you to each one of you for your... Oh, you have something you want to say?
I would like to take a chance and invite everyone to visit the website internetcommerce.org, which is the Internet Commerce Association. Braden and myself are proud board members, and we invite to take that chance to consider participation in ICA, because it's an organization which groups together fantastic experts, IP lawyers, and allows the community to get together, be up to date. So that's why I invite everyone to consider internetcommerce.org.
The ICA is the only organization that is protecting our assets, right? They're focusing on UDRPs. Trademark owners are coming after our names because they think they just deserve it, because they have a trademark. Even though there could be hundreds or thousands of trademarks for that word, they want the .com or they want the .net or whatever it is that we own. They think they deserve it and we should give up our asset. And it's not the case. But the problem is that the panel members that make the decision are trademark lawyers. So they're focused on trademark holders. That's been their world, and not domain investors, not the people that own these assets. They don't see them as assets, they just see them as a trademark. So the ICA is out there trying to get domain attorneys on these panels, and they're trying to even the playing field. So they're out there representing us. You can support the ICA for as little as $50 a month. There's a lot of benefits that come along with that. So if you're going to be in this industry, you should support the ICA.
And beyond your rights being protected, you get access to community and education that is really unparalleled. And they also have a broker's, what's the words? The
Code of conduct.
a brokerage code of conduct. So are we all members of the broker code of conduct with the ICA?
Because I'm not a broker.
Oh, he's always got a trick answer. Anyway, check out internetcommerce.org. Thank you so much.